More and more states are finally coming around to the realization that the war on drugs is an utter failure, and that legalizing marijuana, like alcohol, is smart, is profitable, neutralizes the drug dealers, and most importantly, prevents the federal government from telling you what you can put inside your own body. 13 states have already legalized medical marijuana, and 14 others have pending legislation or ballot measures. The Obama administration says it will not prosecute people who comply with state medical marijuana laws. But here's what it's doing. Instead of prosecuting those who distribute and use marijuana lawfully, this Justice Department breaks down their doors, raids the dealers and users, steals their marijuana, and leaves. So is this just a smokescreen, no pun intended, or are we closer to gaining one bit of freedom back from the feds? Joining us now is Red Eye Ombudsman and all-around good guy Andy Levy. Andy, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Thanks, Judge. Appreciate it.
What is the attitude about the federal government which makes it think that it can break down doors and steal something that in California is legal and in New Jersey, I'm just using two states as an example, is about to be legal? Yeah, this is in the privacy of people's homes, pursuant to a prescription given to them by their doctor, pursuant to a law that lets the doctor do it.
Yeah, isn't there a name for people that break down your door, steal your stuff, and leave?
Crooks.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be your government doing that. But that's what happens when the government thinks it can do anything it wants. The government can be crooks.
What is it about the Victorian attitude in the country about marijuana? We didn't learn our lesson from Prohibition. Marijuana's use is rampant throughout the country. There are millions of people in jail for using it in private on their own. These aren't people that broke into a bank to steal the money to buy the marijuana. They're simple private recreational users. Why won't the government recognize that there are certain parts of human nature that it can't control?
Because there are always people who think it's their mission to control other people's lives. And unfortunately, a majority of those people decide, hey, I'm going to go into government, because that's where they get to exercise the most control over other people. The fact is, marijuana was first federally prohibited in, I think, 1937. And in 2005, 86% of 12th graders said it was easy to get pot. The war on drugs is over. The drugs won. We need to accept that. It's not even a war on drugs anymore. It never really was. It's a war on the American people being waged by our own government.
Why do you think that people in the government want to sort of put on the mantle of, well, I would never let children use drugs? They're not stupid. They know how rampant this is. They know how wasteful it is for law enforcement resources to be chasing some kid in Washington Square Park because he's got marijuana in his pocket, as opposed to some thug that just broke into a building or actually harmed somebody.
But they are the thugs that are breaking into buildings and harming someone, so that's part of the problem. Look, it's the Prohibition attitude. We didn't learn our lesson from banning alcohol. During Prohibition, people like Al Capone, rose to power. Now we've got the drug cartels. We've got people like Pablo Escobar and everyone like that. And even worse, we've got the Taliban getting all kinds of money from selling opium, because the prices are getting all sorts of weapons, from selling opium, because the prices are artificially inflated by the fact that it's illegal. So it's hurting the war on terror to have the war on drugs going on at the same time.
Milton Friedman once argued that there wouldn't be crack if cocaine were legal. That the only reason there is crack is because it's the residue that is there after the cocaine is manufactured. It's manufactured in secret for fear that the police will harm them, and that there would actually be less harmful drugs on the market if recreational drugs were made lawful. I'm not talking about using this stuff and then getting behind the wheel of a car any more than you would drink 10 beers and get behind the wheel of a car. I'm talking about using it responsibly in the privacy of your own home.
Well, the fact is, there's no substantive difference between drugs and alcohol, and there shouldn't be in terms of our policy. We recognize that alcohol is enjoyed by people. We make it legal. We put some restrictions on it. You can't get behind the wheel of a car. You can't buy it if you're a kid. Why don't we do the same thing with drugs? It makes no sense. It's utter hypocrisy.
Do you think the only reason alcohol is legal today is because Prohibition was a disaster?
Probably. Well, and also, we were in the Great Depression, and the government realized it needed money. And that's where we're at now with marijuana. The economy goes in the tank. Suddenly, all these states are like, hey, if we legalize this, we can regulate it and tax it and make money. So it's sort of this utilitarian argument that when the government decides it needs money, something maybe is okay for the people to do as long as they can get their greedy little hands on part of it.
All right. A lot of states have sort of started the ball rolling with medical marijuana. No state has legalized its use for recreational purposes, although some mutual friends that you and I have in California basically say it might as well be legal out there because the state is so cash-strapped. It really doesn't have the money to enforce these victimless crimes. Where do you see all this going?
Well, look, I think 100 years from now, it's going to be legal, and it's going to be one of those things where people look back and say,
see, 100 years from now, I will be 100 now.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But I don't know how quickly it's going to get there. And the problem is, look, do you think President Obama doesn't think drugs should be legal? Of course he does. But there's no political gain right now that he can see in pushing it. And that's the problem. I think there's really no intellectual argument against legalizing marijuana.
And being in favor of legalizing marijuana doesn't mean you're in favor of using it yourself. It means you don't want the government to make decisions for you. And the right to make decisions means you have the right to make stupid decisions.
Oh, look, I don't smoke pot, and I say that only because I favor legalizing pot, and it, I guess, is a stronger argument by the fact that I don't use it. It's not about me. It's about some other rational adult making their own decision as to what they want to put in their body.
Andy Levy, what a pleasure to chat with you.
Thanks, Judge.
Thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch. You can catch today's show on foxnews.com/Freedom Watch and on Sirius 145, XM 168, or online at foxnewstalk.com at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. From New York, defending freedom. Until the next time, stay free.